Starting off by explaining a little bit about the keys to start with. This is a Tibbe blank in its uncut state, as you can see there, and here we have another Tibbe key that has its cuts on. I'm sure you've all seen one of these. The actual positions of the cuts are here. This is position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, position 5 and position 6. And how we identify these cuts, which can be done by sight reading them actually. If we start back at this position 1, you'll notice that the actual key there is actually flat as it was on the blank itself, so it's an uncut key there. That is actually a number 1 cut, so it's a no cut is a number 1 cut. Quite easy to spot. The next very distinguished cut to spot is the number 4 cut. Now the number 4 cut, this is a number 4 cut. If you can see, the key has been cut away. If I can get a better shot of that. All the way down to the bottom here with this fin on the bottom of the key here. Now these number 4s are actually nothing to do with the lock apart from actually driving the lock around and turning the lock as such. So as you look at this particular lock here now, for example, you can actually see the 4s are easy to spot. There's actually 1, 2, 3 number 4s in this particular lock. So that's actually not as good security as another lock would be, so if it only had 1. So bearing in mind that all Tibbe locks must have at least 1 number 4 cut in them to drive the lock and turn the lock round. Okay. Again, by then looking along here, perhaps if you can see this one here, if we can get a better shot. Here's a number 4. Next to it is one that is angled nearly all the way down the fin, but you can just about make out a little bit of meat on the bottom here. So what that does is, by process of elimination, that tells me that's going to be a 3. So the only other one to spot here is this one here. Now, very similar to the first one here, the number 1. Now the difference is, it can be hard to spot the difference between 1s and 2s, especially on a worn key. Another way of doing it is to perhaps get a pair of digital calipers, measure the thickness of what a blank would be. I think it's about 3.9 mil or something like that, and then obviously check these with the calipers, and I think you'll find the number 2 cut comes up at about 3.3 or something. So there you go. So by looking at this key, we can actually decode this purely by looking at it. So the cuts of this key are a 1, a 4, a 3, another 4. This one we weren't sure whether it was a 1 or a 2, so if I was going to cut that key now, I would in fact leave that uncut as a number 1 for the moment, because I could always recut the key to a 2, hence not wasting a blank as such. And then we get to this last position, which again is another 4. So at the moment we have a code which is 1, 4, 3, 4, 1 or a 2, and then another 4. So like I said, if I was to cut that key now, I personally would leave this as a number 1 cut, try the key, and if it didn't work, I would then drop this down to a number 2. I'm just going to move the camera now, so I'm just going to pause you a minute. Right, we're going to have a little quick chat about what's going on inside the lock. These are the discs that are actually used inside the Tibbe lock. You can probably just about make out a number 1 on that one. Hopefully a number 2 on that one. A 3 on that one. And the 4 stamped on the edge of that one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move back to the number 2, because this is the best one to show you on. The important bit, what we want, is this big recess here. You may be able to see, if I let's go a little bit closer, either side of that are actually anti-pick notches, which are obviously meant to fool you when you're trying to pick the lock. But the important bit is that big channel there. Obviously, as it's quite hard to see on these little metal discs, what I tried to do is do a bit of a sketch to explain what's going on. So this is my Rolf Harris impression of what's going on. So yeah, this is the important thing. To pick the lock, what we're trying to do is get these deep channels all in a row like this. And then what happens is there's a metal bar inside the lock, which when they're all in line, the metal bar will drop down into that, allowing the plug to rotate. So that's basically how the mechanism is working inside that lock itself. Just one more thing while we're on this bit of paper. When we put a single pick in the lock in a minute, you'll notice a bit of a giveaway as to what you're actually trying to find is how far the pick will move. A number 4 disc will only move a very small bit, a 3 a little bit more, 2 a little bit more than that, and the 1 disc will be the one that turns around the furthest. So again, we'll move the camera now and try and get a shot on the lock and see if we can't get one open. Just bear with me a minute. Guys, this is the particular lock in question we're going to have a crack at today to try and open. Just show you down here again, somewhere where I've gone. This is the key that actually operates this particular lock. So if we can try and get a bit of a shot of that. And she goes. You'll see she turns. You can see the plug at the back of the lock rotating. So like I said, this is the correct key for this lock. Just to show you the lock isn't rigged in any way. Here's the blank. We're going to put that in now. And you should see by me turning that, it doesn't want to go. Okay. Bearing in mind, whether you know or not, I don't know. Not on this particular lock, because this is a boot lock, so it doesn't spring both ways. It only actually turns this one direction. But any Ford key will lock any other, or any Ford Tibbe key will lock any other Tibbe lock. Obviously won't undo, but because of the number 4s and the way they drive the lock, they will actually lock in any lock. I don't know whether we can perhaps show you that if I can put the camera down a moment. If we can get this on shot. Here's another Tibbe barrel. This is the blank. By putting this into this lock, one way it will let me turn it, but that is the locking position. So remember that, boys, when you leave your keys hanging in your ignition. Anyone can walk past with any Ford key or a blank and lock your keys in. Okay, right, put that down, pick you up again. Right, the first method we're going to try and use to open this lock today is a jiggler key, which is, where is she? Here she is. And basically what this is a bought one. I think you can pick these up. I think this one was made by Super Tools, I think, for about £7. I dare say you could make one quite easy out of a blank, if you could be bothered to stand there and file it. For that money, personally, I couldn't be bothered. But what this is basically is a filed away key with just the very last cut on that end being left on to manipulate jiggling the lock. So what we're going to do now is try and get the camera over here. Something like that, we hope. Okay. And then what we're going to do is just show you again with the keys to show you that this is the correct key. Hopefully you can see the plug turning here. And this is a blank, so the lock is not rigged, it doesn't want to turn. And basically what we're going to do now is with this key, we're going to insert this key all the way down into the lock. I'm just going to move the camera again for a moment, just something before we try to pick it I'd like to try and show you. So the key is now in the lock, pushed all the way into the back. I'm now going to turn it as far as I can to the right, to the opening position. Right, that key doesn't want to turn very far. But going back to what we said earlier, if we come back to the old chart again, by that's telling me, as you can see by my little diagram there, that more than likely that disc at the back of the lock there is a number 4. So that will, in fact, will be one of the discs that wants to drive the lock. We'll just see if I can get back on the lock again. We'll try and pull that out, one notch in it and turn it. Now can you see how much further the key's gone around this time? It's a bit awkward doing this and trying to film, sorry boys, but can you see how much further that has gone around there now? Indicating to me that perhaps possibly, have we gone the chart, possibly that's going to be a 2 or a 1. So anyway, that gives you some idea that you'll sort of get a bit of a feel of the build up of the lock from the word go, just by feeling through each individual thing. That one doesn't, oh, that one's gone. Can you see that the key's gone around a long way there? Whereas one back, it doesn't want to turn again, telling me that's probably a 4. So what we'll do is we'll put the camera back over here. and basically see if we can get this lock open with the jiggle method. Now basically what the jiggle method entails is basically exactly what we've just said. So I'm going to insert this in, and I'm going to the opening direction, be turning the key. I'm slightly moving the key in and out, back and forth, through the 6 positions. Just randomly knocking those discs around as far as they'll go, and hopefully sooner or later, if we can line those all up, and the bar will fall in, and we pick up on one of the falls, hey bingo, she should go. So this method is a bit hit and miss, but if you don't want to carry or buy expensive tools, just for the sake of having a £7 bit in your kit, and can you see that? She's now gone. Can you see the plug is turning? Just through manipulating that, we've now got that lock open, and we've just gained entry to the vehicle. So the jiggler key will work. What you might find is after you've used the jiggler key, is when you try and then put another key back in, might be awkward to go into. It needs a little bit of guidance. It's just to reline the discs up again.